Hey everyone, welcome to the Wilson Homestead. So it has been a while since I made a video and we have just had a lot of stuff going on. We actually did a major remodel to the vegetable garden and I'm really excited to show you that today. So let's get to it. Here it is. Looks quite a bit different from last year when you saw it. Last year we had 6 raised beds in the back, and that's as far as we got. This year we built 9 more and finished this whole garden space out. And we also, right here at the entrance, at the gate, we put in an arch trellis made out of 3 cattle panels. On these arches I have planted a number of different kind of pole beans that can grow up and just be beautiful and spectacular. So this first arch, and I'm going to put the names up on the screen because I am not sure that I'm saying them correctly. I'll probably butcher the names of all of these. But anyway, these are called Carminat pole beans, and they're a purple potted pole bean. After last year when I grew all of the different colors of beans, I was like, wow, like I'm hooked. I have to have that pretty basket every time I bring in beans now. Which the purple ones, whenever you cook them, they will turn green. So that's kind of a bummer, but it's still pretty to look at after you pick them. This second arch, on the right side, I have Kentucky Wonder pole beans, which are just a regular green bean. And on the left side, I have Kentucky Blue, which did not germinate that well. So I might have to maybe plug in a couple more seeds here and there. And then on this last arch, I have Monte Gusto pole beans, and they are actually a yellow potted pole bean. Now I will warn you ahead of time that this garden is full of weeds because these lower beds, I haven't had time to weed them because we were working on getting these beds built and filled and planted. So I have to get busy and get some stuff done, especially like my tomatoes. My tomatoes haven't been tied up yet, and they really need to be tied up at this point in time. They're flopping over everywhere. But anyway, that's your warning, and I'm just going to go through and show you this hot mess. This first bed, half of it, are red core Chantenay carrots. You see right here, I've got several coming up. And then down here on this side, I have garlic. This is Italian garlic, and I'm not going to worry too much about the weeds at this point because these will be coming out of the ground in about a week. So it looks pretty good. And I have weeded it a couple times, but look at this crown vetch. It is like creeping into my garden like crazy. I've got to get rid of that. It's so beautiful, but it's so invasive. Look at this. This next bed, I have half a row of tomatoes here. I have 1 Cherokee Purple and 4 Brad's Atomic Grape. And I do have some fruit sitting on. I've never tried this variety before. Then down here on the other end of the bed, I have Scarlet Nantes carrots. And I did have to plant these twice. because I tried a new method. I'm sure you've seen it, where you pre-soak the seeds and then you put them in a cornstarch slurry and then you just pipe them into the ground, and it just didn't work that well for me. So all of my carrot beds have some carrots, like a few, that are big, and then a lot of them that are little. Now these, I'm going to have to come in pretty soon and thin these out so that way they have space to grow. And if you don't go through and thin your carrots, you're just going to get a lot of wimpy carrots, and I don't want that. In this row, I have 5 more Cherokee purple tomatoes. I plant a lot of the dark tomatoes because those are my favorite ones for fresh eating. And then down here I have 4 Oxheart tomatoes. Blooming, doing pretty well. They just need a haircut and they need to be tied to the trellis here, but you can see down here at the bottom what happens whenever you don't trim up these bottom leaves. That's how disease and fungus gets into your plant. So it's really important to keep this trimmed up. I do have a few little tomatoes down here on the bottom, but as soon as I planted these, I laid down straw. So that way I didn't have a lot of soil splashing back up onto the leaves, because at first you're not going to want to take a lot of the growth off all at once. You have to give them a chance to grow and then you can take it off. But like I said, I have neglected these a little bit, and like all of this mess should have been taken off of them already. Now this is a mixed bed. I have beans on this side. I have jade bush beans through almost the whole entire bed. And then in this one row right here, if you watched my videos last year, I ended up with a top crop yellow bush bean that turned out variegated. So I just left it go to seed and dry up on the plant. And then I saved the seeds and then I planted them again. And I did end up getting 2 pretty variegated plants. So what I'll do with these 2 is I will let them set their fruit, let it dry out on the plant, save the seeds again, so I can have these pretty plants next year. Because look at this. Who wouldn't want a whole field of beans that looks like this? That is gorgeous. Now for the tomatoes in this bed. I have 1 Golden Jubilee. Doing pretty good. And then I have 3 Ponderosa Pink. Also doing well. And then I have 4 Hillbilly Tomatoes. And these things are monsters. They are just about the fastest growing tomato I have in here. Pretty amazing. I've never grown this variety before. It's one of those like stripy varieties. I think yellow and red. But I do have fruit setting on these too. Alright, now this last row is also a mixed row. I have Blue Lake bush beans on the side, and then my tomatoes on this side, because I didn't want to waste any space. And what I have here are 3 Beef Masters, which are also pretty fast growing, but I don't see a lot of fruit sitting on these yet. It might take them a little bit longer. I did have a late start this year because I live in the Northeast and we had that really late freeze in May, so it kind of set us back a little bit. I also have some Mr. Stripey in here. And you can see that these have flopped over and need tied up badly. I will get to that pretty soon. And then the last couple in this bed are Mortgage Lifter, which I grew last year and I really liked it. It's actually a West Virginia heirloom tomato, and I live in West Virginia, so I thought, you know, I gotta pay homage to my state, so here we are, growing the Mortgage Lifter. And it was very productive. Like, it was the most productive big red slicer that I've ever grown. And then down here on the end, I have a couple Golden Jubilee. And you will notice too, I bought too many tomato plants this year, and I didn't want to just throw them out. So at the end of my rows, I just dug a hole and popped in my spare tomato plants everywhere. Okay, moving along to the next bed, I have cabbage and onions in here. These are 6 Brunswick Cabbage, and they have grown significantly in like the past week. A couple weeks ago I planted some sage in here, and I don't really think it's gonna make it. Okay, let's take a look at the onions. This top section is white sweet Spanish onions. And then here I have ruby red long day onions. And then this last section I have Zebrune shallots. Doing pretty well. A little weedy. I've got to get these weeds out of here because onions do not like to compete with weeds. This bed is Danvers half-long carrots, and you can see that some of these are doing really well from my first planting. But I did go through, and in all of the spots that didn't germinate, I went ahead and replanted, so hopefully they have time to catch up. One down here I have some broccoli plants, which I have already harvested from once, and I'm not great at growing spring broccoli, so I think I'm going to try again in the fall. But you can see right here where I harvested the main head, and this is Waltham broccoli, so it will put off side shoots after you harvest the main head. So see, there's some little broccoli shoots that I can pick off of this. But as soon as the side shoots are done, I'm going to pull this all out and maybe clean it out and leave it empty for fall, or maybe put some beans in here. And then back here, I did have cauliflower planted, and it was just a bust. Like, it didn't do well. So I planted some more Scarlet Nantes carrots that are starting to come up, starting to get their true leaves. This is a bed of bush beans, and the bottom half of this bed germinated pretty well. The top half is having some issues, so I don't really know what's going on here, but this bottom section is Royal Burgundy bush beans, which are a purple potted bean. And the top half is Tenderette, which I have never had a problem with Tenderette before. So this is kind of confusing. I don't know if I have some kind of varmint or something that's eating these plants. I do see some insect damage here. So I don't know if it's slugs or snails or what's going on here, but look at that. It's just not doing very well. I'm gonna maybe try to figure out something organic that I can do to help these plants out. Okay, next bed I have a pineapple ground cherry, and it is actually doing really well. You can see There's quite a bit of fruit on there already, as small as it is. And then we have a cattle panel trellis that has cucumbers on it. I have muncher cucumbers, which were my favorite fresh eating cucumber from last year. And then I have a few pickle barrel hybrids and national pickling cucumbers, because most of my cucumbers get turned into pickles because we love dill pickles. But they're all doing pretty good. I might have to thin some of these out. You can see how close they are together. I'll probably come in and thin these out so they have about 6 inches of space in between them. Alright, the next bed has another pineapple ground cherry and all of my peppers. I have 4 jalapenos, several banana peppers, and in this section I have some paprika peppers that I'm going to let them get red and then dehydrate them for paprika powder. So I'm pretty excited about that. I have one Alma paprika, and then the rest of them are called Fair Ozone. And I'm pretty sure that this is one of them. See, those grow kind of weird. They're like pointing up instead of down. But they're doing pretty good. Then up here I have 4 Sunbright peppers and then 10 big red peppers, which are both types of bell peppers. And I don't see a whole lot of fruit sitting on these yet, but there are buds. Oh, here's the pepper. Check this out. Look at that, one of the big reds. Okay, this next bed is beside of the cattle panel arches, and I planted golden butter wax beans, 2 rows of them all the way up to the top, and then in the space on the side where the arches don't go, I planted some there too. This is the other side of the arch, and I planted royal Burgundy bush beans up to here. And then I tried to do the Roma 2s again. I tried them last year and they didn't do anything for me. They didn't even germinate hardly this year. I think I have 3 or 4 that did germinate. So I just went ahead and plugged in some tenderette bush beans in there because I know that they'll do well, and they're all starting to come up already. Okay, hang in there with me, guys. We're almost done. I have another bean bed right here. I plugged in a little bit of sage right here in the front. Half of it's Blue Lake and half of it's tenderette. Those are the 2 main crops of bush beans that I have that I know do well and perform well for me here in my climate. I have another cattle panel trellis here that has some cucumbers on it. These first few plants here are called Bait Alpha. I haven't tried that variety before. And then the rest of this row is national pickling, of course, so I can make those dill pickles. Whew, lordy. Alright, here we are. Last bed. I have Mammoth Dill, which I need for all those pickles. I have 2 Ford Hook zucchinis. And I have a little section here of Scarlet Nantes carrots. And then up here on the end, I usually don't grow cantaloupe, but I threw in a Hale's Best cantaloupe because I thought, you know, I'm here in the corner of the garden and maybe I can just let it sprawl out of this bed and go everywhere. So we'll see how that turns out. I've never been successful growing cantaloupe before, but I thought, hey, let's give it a shot. Alright guys, that does it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time here on the Wilson Homestead. Bye guys.